And that is not what, you know, the liberal project of wanting the next Joe Rogan is not what they're looking for. They want someone who's going to toe the line. And that sucks because you already have that in so many forms and variations. You got David Pakman's show, you got Brian Taylor Cohen, you got Ezra Klein, you got Midas Touch, you got Occupy Democrats. You have that in a lot of different variations and forms, but you don't want that. You want a Joe Rogan that you can control, essentially, right? I'm sure you all know about the hunt for the Joe Rogan of the left. It's been happening for some time now. Democrats are desperate to find their own Joe Rogan. They don't actually want a Joe Rogan of the left. They want a Joe Rogan that they can control, and that's it. They don't say it out loud, but that's it. They would like someone who is as famous and has as big a reach as Joe Rogan, but is willing to every now and then, if they push a button, he's just randomly going to be like, yeah, bro, that's why vaccines are so... vote blue no matter who. Bro. Yeah. Blue no matter who. That's what they want, right? They're not looking for someone who actually has a very popular show that brings on a lot of guests, that has a very large male audience, and, you know, occasionally questions power. They don't want that. Anyway, Stavvy recently had on a guest and pushed back quite quickly from some pretty intense out-of-the-gates transphobia.
My friend's ex, not ex, just dude she was fucking, whatever. He was like, I've fucked a tranny. Right, okay, which is crazy.
Yeah, he said that. You're quoting him.
He said that. He's like the southern guy, which tranny to me is drag, in my opinion.
No, it's a slur for
but it's not transgender.
Person. Yes, it is.
If you transition fully, you're not really a tranny anymore.
Okay, you know stop saying it. That's where I land. You really have gotten like Austin trans brain. Like,
I love that. I was like, that should probably just be the line from here on out. Oh, you've got Austin brain. Yeah. That's what it is.
You know what I mean? Like, it really is.
By the way, that's not to disparage awesome people who live in Austin, Texas. I'm just saying the Austin comedy scene is what he's referring to, aka you know, the what is it, the Joe Rogan spaceship mothership, the comedy mothership, or whatever it's called.
It's at the top of your head.
No, because you
immediately brought it up as soon as the podcast started.
No, because my friend's ex, not ex, just dude she was fucking, whatever. He was like, I've fucked with gym rats. What do you think about identifying as queer if you're just a hot woman who got a sex change in a relationship with a toxic gym rat? Do you get to say you're queer?
If you had a sex, what do you mean the sex
Women,
change?
Okay, I was a man. I transitioned to be a beautiful woman. I'm killing it. Huge tits.
Yep.
Amazing pussy.
Yep. Sounds
Having
awesome.
sex with gym rats. Strong men.
Cool.
Toxic.
Yeah.
And I still identify as queer.
I mean, I think being trans, we're in a society where, I think, unfortunately, society dictates that a little bit. And I think
I'm more queer than that person.
So I just want to say this is such a telling clip, because what she's essentially saying here is that if you transitioned and you transition to the point where society accepts you, right, where you no longer experience any kind of marginalization, people just think of you as a hot woman. You're such a hot woman that you can get the gym rats, right? And then, so at that point, yeah, I mean, you know, do you still get to say that you are LGBTQ+, that you're queer, etc., if society accepts you? She's saying all that while being as transphobic as fuck on me. Like, that's the wild part. You're disproving your point in real time. You're dropping T-slurs. You're just being like, I think it's a form of drag. I don't think these people are real, blah, blah, blah. This is performative. So you're exemplifying all the ways in which trans people are marginalized by cis society, right? Cis heteronormative society, all that kind of shit. Well, at the same time being like, right, but if you've ascended to a point where no one cares, where no one notices, you pass, right? Like, at that point, are you still queer? Do you still get to identify as being LGBTQ+? Do you still get that privilege? I do love how, you know, Stavvy just doesn't even bite on any of this. He's not even sitting there being like, okay, let's riff. Let's do a bit. This sounds fun. It's just straight up like, I think you have Austin transphobe brain. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here.
And my mom, by the way, is a fucking straight lady who everybody whittled her down into a lesbian. She loves cock. Look at me. She loves it.
Wow.
She loves Tom Cruise. She fucked my dad for 14 years.
But she was dating women forever.
They assaulted her. They're assaulting me, and they assaulted my mother.
Okay, so we've gotten into another layer of this where you now are.
And my mom, by the way.
It's just wild. But anyways, I wanted to say that, like, I know, what is it? Stavvy is definitely not what you would consider to be PC. I mean, the guy comes from a show. I think it's called Seamanland. He used to be on a podcast called Seamanland, and he was on Seamanland with some other people who did a lot of incredibly offensive shock jock humor. Some of it was racist. Some of it was homophobic. Some of it was transphobic. Yeah, for a long time. All the people on Seamanland were basically doing whatever they could to just be a group of people in a room being as offensive as possible, right? And then a lot of them grew up. They grew up and then they had their own shows. And then now there's, the Adam Friedland podcast. And then there's Stavvy doing his stuff and all that kind of stuff. And now a lot of them are kind of, as they've grown up and they've learned a lot more, they're coming out with some pretty awesome takes, I got to be honest with you. And some pretty awesome clips and scenes are popping up on the internet, as is often, the thing that happens. And these are all comedians, I might add. They happen to be comedians. Oh, it was Ejaculationville. Sorry, Ejaculationville. That was the podcast they used to all have together. But now they've all grown up and then they're coming out with better takes. I just want to say, he's doing what Joe Rogan does. It's the same thing. He has a podcast. He brings on comedians, usually because he is a comedian, stand-up comedian, bring on other stand-up comedians. They talk about a whole bunch of different stuff. They get to talk about what they want. But at the end of the day, he is not a liberal. He identifies a lot closer to being a leftist, a lot more of your kind of Zoran Mamdani supporter or Bernie Sanders supporter kind of a person. And that is not what, the liberal project of wanting the next Joe Rogan is not what they're looking for. They don't, again, want someone who basically questions the fucking bullshit of the Democrats. They don't want that. They want someone who's going to toe the line. And that sucks because you already have that in so many forms and variations. You got David Pakman's show. You got Brian Taylor Cohen. You got Ezra Klein. You got Midas Touch. You got Occupy Democrats. Like, all of those are very popular shows, podcasts, streams, YouTubers who, while they do occasionally have their criticisms of the Democratic Party, I mean, they principally serve to basically say Orange Man bad, Democrats good. And so you have that in a lot of different variations and forms. But you don't want that. You want a Joe Rogan that you can control, essentially, right? So that brings us to Graham Linehan. Because if we're going to talk about transphobia and what it does to the brain, man, no better example than what's happening with Graham Linehan right now. When Graham Linehan was arrested and before his harassment trial began, a lot of people rushed to his defense. So fast, by the way, I might add. Like, embarrassingly so. Including J.K. Rowling, including one of the members of Kids in the Hall. I'm ashamed to have to say. But, it is what it is. There was a lot of people who have been kind of, teetering on the fence of whether or not they're willing to go fully into turf mode. But Graham Linehan, for a lot of them, seems to have been finally that moment. It was, hey, I don't have to agree with all the kind of fucked up shit that he says. And I know sometimes he's said some pretty rude stuff in the past, but ultimately, this is a legend, an absolute comedy legend, all right? And that he has made some of the most beloved shows of all time, Father Ted, The It Crowd, and he's lost everything, he said, as a result of, the criticism of his, let's just say what he calls feminism. And if you listen to Graham Linehan in his own words, he kind of talks about how trans people took everything from him, rather than the reality is that you became such a massive weirdo, such a monstrous weirdo, because the very concept of trans people existing broke his brain. And, it's broken a lot of people's brains. We've seen how far some people are willing to take this, and they just go deeper and deeper into this unscientific rabbit hole. They can start here, and then eventually they're anti-vaxxers, or they're vaccine skeptics, or they can go all the way to fucking being flat earthers after another time, where they become race realists, talking about race and IQ, all that kind of shit. Because, yeah, it is a profoundly unscientific stance to take. It is one in which they think that the entire world is turned upside down in their eyes. Like, he gave that, crying speech where he's like, they took everything everything from me. Just because I wouldn't believe that a woman could have a penis. Because I didn't say that. Then I lost my wife. I lost my child. Everything. The trans people who took that from me. And it's like, no. Like, dog, you just became a fucking weirdo. No one wants to be around this. Who the fuck wants to hang out with the guy who's just fucking like, I want to be in women's spaces. I want to fucking make sure that you have the right genitals. I want to be the genital inspector. I don't think that children should play in certain sports if they don't have the right genitals. If you have a penis, you can't play soccer. And I'm going to make sure that every single child has been inspected. It's like, Jesus Christ, you belong in jail. I don't want anything to do with you. I don't want to hang out with you. I don't want to be in a relationship with you. Not a surprise that you lost your family. So everyone went to Graham Linehan's defense because they believed that Graham Linehan had been arrested for jokes that he made online, because he had the audacity to make some jokes, and I'm sure you've seen the examples. One tweet, he was like, you can smell it from here, and it was a picture of a whole bunch of LGBTQ plus activists, and they're saying like, look, I agree that he's mean, that he's crass, but like, no one should have to go to prison or face, you know, legal consequences for some weird mean tweets, right? And if that was the case, even me, someone who fucking despises these fucking bigots, I'd agree with you. If he's about to go to jail because he said that a group of activists are smelly, that's not right. That's definitely an overreach. That's an unjust law, or that's an unjust arrest. He shouldn't be going to jail for that. But everyone was ignoring the fact that he was actually physically harassing a minor. That he had actually targeted a minor and claimed that this minor was part of a large conspiracy of you know, trans people trying to provoke him and you know, make him into something he's not. Here's the video footage of the inciting incident.
Why do you think it's acceptable to call teenagers domestic terrorists? Oi! Oi! Here I am with Graham Linehan.
Yes, I don't know. Maybe a couple of people were a little too quick to be like, oh, he's our guy. He's our hero. This is the person. We got to now defend Graham Linehan in all things. But don't worry, Graham Linehan has you covered, because if you ever wanted to know how fucked up the transphobic or the TERF brain rot goes, you have but to listen to his own testimonies that he was giving in court. Including, quote, it was based on the fact that most trans-identified men, the term used for trans women by people who do not believe they are female, think that the trans-identified because of pornography, he explained. He believes that trans people become trans because of sissy hypnotic porn. Very Michael Knowles of him. Trans-identified men is the term used for trans women by people who believe they're not female. Linehan added, you're trying to make me out like I'm a bigot, because I believe in women's rights and oppose men trying to intimidate and bully women. He said that him and Miss Brooks, the person who he had assaulted, had been involved in trans activism since 2013. But the prosecutor, Julia Faure-Wachner, said Miss Brooks would have been 6 years old at the time that he was claiming. So, and he misidentifies her multiple times, but I'll do my best here because I'm quoting him. So she says, Linehan replied. They said that Miss Brooks' driving license proves that she is 18. She was 17 when he physically assaulted her. So Linehan specifically referred to Miss Brooks by a name that he invented, Tarkin. Yeah, he just made it up based on nothing other than the fact that he believed that she sounded posh. In a statement to the police, he said that he made up the name because he believed that she was posh, so the court heard, and he referred to her as him throughout the trial. In a prepared statement, Linehan said, I was first approached by Tarkin when I arrived at the venue, and I was subject to a form of harassment with Tarkin approaching and filming me at close quarters. Tarkin sought to disrupt the event. Despite her being removed by security staff, she was still able to harass people around the venue. There was repeated harassment of people, including me, typically involving a phone in front of someone's face only a few inches away to provoke a reaction. So this, again, just the ramblings of a madman, right? Like, normally the kind of stuff you would be like, well, this guy needs therapy. Sorry, you invented a name that is not this person's either dead name or their name at all? What's the basis for calling them Tarkin? Oh, because they sounded posh. So I think this is probably their real name. Okay, again, strange delusions. Not to mention the so-called feminist who believes that he wants to protect women. Here's his thoughts on women. A lot of women famously do not like insects. They have a natural revulsion against insects. This is a form of terrorism that's very specifically aimed at women. So, yeah. If you're a man who doesn't like bugs crawling on you, you're not a man. Just gotta tell you. Sorry, fellas. If you've ever been scared of a cockroach, you know, if you don't want millipedes crawling on your fingers, then you might be a woman, unfortunately. And women, if you've ever been interested in insects in any capacity, unfortunately, you are a man. Yeah, I don't make the rules. This is how it is. Yeah, I mean, that explains why Nicolas Cage was like that, you know, with not the bees. That does make sense. Because again, well, no, but then that would make him a woman. Because a man would be the bees. He would just say, the bees, more bees. I love the bees. Because that's what dudes do, right? Real dudes, manly dudes. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, in The Wicker Man, Nicolas Cage was effectively a woman, unfortunately. So, Graham Linehan, it's sissy porn. Julia Faulkner, you must be more familiar with it than me. Graham Linehan, oh, I am. I really am. Graham Linehan claims in court that police are basically working for trans activists. The co-creator of the TV sitcom Father Ted has accused the police of basically working for trans activists as he defended himself in court of charges of criminal damage and harassing a teenager. He denied claims for prosecution that he'd become a bit obsessed with Sophia Brooks, the then 17-year-old trans activist with whom he had an altercation last October. The 57-year-old said Brooks was a young soldier in the trans activist army, adding that she was misogynistic, she was abusive, and she was snide. Obviously misgendering her multiple times. Then it said, Brooke lies about their name, about their sex. I don't believe anything that she says. She is a born liar. The court told Linehan and Brooks had met for the first time in person outside of the Battle of Ideas conference. Linehan told police he knocked the phone out of the hands of Brooks, who had been filming him after being taunted about his divorce, a move that was said by Linehan to have a reflex response of a provocative statement. We watched in the clip, by the way, and while I'm not going to say that, you know, obviously she probably taunted him about his divorce, which I'm sure, like myself, most people do, because, you know, you couldn't imagine a more divorced man than a man who's effectively just trying to harass children, physically assault children, and then say that he's doing it in the name of being a feminist. Like, yeah, you were just a divorced weirdo. The nature of trans activism is very male. It's abusive. It's sadistic. The police are basically working for trans activists these days. They don't understand the issue and they believe that anything trans activists say to them. A lot of institutions have been captured by trans ideology. Linehan also accused The Guardian of having described him as an anti-trans after he was first speaking to police. He's on trial for one count of harassing Brooks on social media between the 11th and 27th of October and a further charge of criminal damage to a mobile phone. He denies the charges. A prepared statement from Linehan, given that a police interview on 5th of February was acting as D.S. Thomas Wells, was read by the court by the prosecution, in which he referred to Miss Brooks as Tarquin. Is it Tarquin? Oh, people were saying I wasn't pronouncing it properly. It's a made-up name, okay? It's the strange hate name that he's giving to a trans person because he believes that to be their name, so I don't know if I have to pronounce it properly. The taunting from Tarquin was completely unnecessary. In response, I grabbed the phone and threw it to one side. I'd had enough of the constant harassment from Tarquin and needed to stop her from taunting me any further. I did not intend to cause any damage, and I do not know if it was damaged or not. It was a reflex response to provocation actions by Tarquin. If we review the video, I closed it already. But yeah, in that clip, like, you know, it was basically like, why do you think it's appropriate to, you know, call trans people terrorists? And then he was like, physical assault immediately. It wasn't, yo, you're divorced, right? You're the most divorced man to ever be divorced. I think you're beating Elon Musk and Ye for the divorce Olympics right now, sir, because you're super fucking divorced. You lost your wife and your kids. What? How dare you? Tarquin. I know you, Tarquin. Give me that phone, Tarquin. I accept that I've referred to Tarquin in posts, but as a journalist, I believe in exposing the tactics of vindictive and aggressive trans activists in the public interest. So yeah, just a big old lesson, I guess, here to not only like the deepest recesses of what the the TERF brain can do to people, how absurd they end up sounding, how divorced they become, and how unhappy they ultimately seem. Right? Like the guy just can't stop. Like most of these people, like, whether it be Billboard Chris, he's the Canadian weirdo who walks around with those giant signs that just talk about people's genitals and then wonder why people don't respond to it as well as you would think. He's like, and I'm just kind of curious as to why people keep giving me weird looks when I stand outside of children's hospitals in front of operating rooms and stuff like that with these giant billboards that just talk about their penises and vaginas. That people don't treat me the way I want to be treated. And it's like, you are all the biggest fucking weirdos of society, and yeah, you're being ostracized as a result of that. I'm not surprised that Graham lost his wife. I'm not surprised that Graham lost the kids, because you're disgusting.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This video wouldn't be at all possible without the financial support of all the people whose names you see on the screen right now. And if you want to unlock secret bonus episodes, content that we can't post anywhere else, or get the videos early before anyone else gets to see them, please go on to patreon.com/theserfs. For as little as $1, you can help support this channel and help make more videos like this possible. Our executive producers are Anna Loves Riley, Adrian McCarthy, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Garrett Sandoval, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Richard Boehm, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Tigwick, Trav, and Words Greenwood. And also, it wouldn't be possible without all the names you see on the screen right now. Again, if you want to help produce this content, it's only made possible through the funding of our patrons.